Did you know our next virtual aesthetic marketing seminar is happening May 16th and 17th? We are bringing you 2 days of no nonsense, straight to the point strategies that are working right now in spa so that you can gain the time freedom and financial freedom that you want and deserve. If you're already enrolled in a program at Addo Aesthetics, your ticket is totally free. And if not, you can still join in on the fun for only $97. Head on over to the link in bio on our Instagram page at Addo Aesthetics to get more info and your ticket today. Hello, my dears, Daniela here, and welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. This episode is brought to you by Addo Aesthetics, the #1 coaching company for aesthetic professionals wanting to step into the role of spa CEO. And today, my friends, we have a very special guest on the show. Her name is René Serbon, and we had a lovely chat about skin and business and all the things that I love. And as you'll see, I'm going to read René's bio in just a minute, but this woman goes all in. She is so educated in our industry and really doing her part to make changes. So let me just do a quick read of her bio and then we'll jump into that interview. So René is an international skin expert. She started her education focusing on business studies in marketing and then moved into aesthetics. What a wonderful combination. She began studying in New Zealand, completed her training in beauty therapy, which is called aesthetics in the US and Canada. She also completed training in electrolysis through New Zealand at the New Zealand Institute of Electrolysis and Beauty Therapy. She sat for international exams. She's a diplomat for Sodexo. She also completed postgraduate training in laser, IPL, and the pastiche method of advanced skin analysis, for which she was recognized as an honoree as a pastiche recognized educator. All these words in our industry, it's like, man, hopefully I'm 10 years in this industry or 20 years in this industry. And I hope in another 10 years, I'll actually be able to say esthetician properly. Okay. So she served on the board of education for the International Association for Applied Corneotherapy. So anyway, we had a lovely chat. I connected with her super easy, and she just is a wealth of knowledge. So I hope that you enjoy this interview. Hey, René, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. When this opportunity came around, I had myself a little celebration because I know this conversation is going to be amazing.
So, okay. When we were talking a little bit before the show, you said there's a few things that you're really big in, one of them being corneotherapy. And that just made a light bulb go off in my head because we have an Australian gal in our growth factor program. Hi, Tarsh, who she is totally like, that's her thing. And so just explain a little bit more how you niche in corneotherapy, how you help your clients. Like, I know there's a lot of different avenues, but I want to talk about that and then kind of expand back a little bit more.
Sure. I love my Australian counterparts. Actually, corneotherapy is huge in Australia and New Zealand. So when we get to hang out at our conferences and things, I probably know a fair amount of the corneotherapists down under. So, and they're, oh my gosh, they always show up big time. So love it. So corneotherapy in a nutshell is this methodology of thinking or approach to skin in which we aim to protect the epidermis at all times. So we're not saying never, ever, ever do more, let's say, aggressive treatments on the skin, but we should never start there in our opinion. So we kind of focus on rebuilding the skin barrier first and foremost and giving the skin nutritionally what it needs for that skin barrier to function optimally as best as it can. Because if you give the skin the right building blocks, it kind of is designed to do a certain thing, and given the right things, it will do what it's designed to do, which is protect us from the outer elements. So we kind of correlate it to like the shingles on a roof. We want to kind of repair the shingles on the roof first and then rebuild the inside of the house so that we don't get leaking through the roof, damaging the inside of the house. And we know in skin that triggers inflammation, aging, and conditions like acne and rosacea are all paired with a broken skin barrier. So it's really a simple treatment methodology, but I think people complicate. And I suppose that's the guts of it all, is that we really overcomplicate what we need to do for skin. So just take it back, just protect it, let it do what it's supposed to do.
I love that. And for me, so I grew up in the world of medical, right? So it's like
same, yes.
Acetone, tretinoin, like peel it off, laser it off, like all the things, right? And it's so interesting to me in this industry. I love that we can all have different philosophies of skin and we can all get really great results, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why it's like one person can take that approach of like, let's repair, and they can get phenomenal results and attract a clientele. Like you were saying, how important it is to niche in whatever area you're in. A med spa can, laser your face off and still get great results. It's a different type of client. It's a different approach, right? It's kind of like when we travel, we can take a bus, we can take a plane, we can take a train. We're going to end up at the same location. There's obviously a little overgeneralization there, but I love that we can all have our own skincare philosophy and build a business around that and attract our clientele.
100%. And you know what? There's enough room under the sun for everybody. So we don't have to do the same as everybody else, but you have to find what fits into your approach and your, belief and your approach to skin, I suppose. Because I think when you truly believe and comfortable with the approach that you take, you're going to do better business anyway. So I want to kind of clarify this by showing an example, because I work, even now, my background is also medical aesthetics. And I've worked with and still do work with, dermatologists and so forth, all of that. And this is what the difference is. I think as a corneotherapist, you are going to be a longer runway into preparing the skin before pointing technology at the skin. And what we find with corneotherapy, and the research is actually really exciting, that we kind of get really great results. So we do have people scratching their heads. It's like, how do you get results of like not being less aggressive? And that's because you prep the skin to kind of do faster healing and so forth. So there's nothing to lose by considering it, or even partly employing other technologies as well, or other approaches to skin. So I kind of say you got to do your research and really understand what it is that we mean. And also, I kind of think my mentor always said, you got to decide what kind of therapist are you. I remember when I first went to do my big anatomy, physiology, cosmetic chemistry training, she rattled my cage, and I was like, oh, no, I've done everything wrong for my clients. And how do I change this now? And that's just what you said. Because at that time I was working with a great marine skincare line, but there was just a few places where I just struggled to get really good results. And she just looked at me. She said, at the end of the day, you got to decide if you're an organic girl, or if you're a botanical girl, or if you're a marine girl, or a dermatological skincare girl. Like, what is it that resonates with you and your philosophy towards skin? So now that I own that, the world is my oyster. I don't work a day in my life.
I think it's because I didn't know about corneotherapy. I had no idea what it was. And that just goes to show you that I've been in this industry for 15 plus years and had never heard of it, and until probably 2 years ago. Right. And so it's fascinating to me that there is so much to learn. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just the only one that didn't know about it, but I feel like there's so much because with lasers, when we were prepping the skin, we were taught prep it with hydroquinone, prep it with a chemical peel, prep it, like however we're going to do it, depending on what it is, but not rebuild it up, because you're creating a controlled injury, right? So it's how can we
Exactly. But we're not breaking it down to rebuild it. We're preserving the foundation. We're preserving, the fundamentals and utilizing that's already there, because we can't really change that in essence. So it's just such a wonderful philosophy and the approach. And, you're not the only one. It's just becoming more and more well-known over the last 10 years because we've been doing a lot of work. Us true corneotherapy nerds have been doing a lot of work.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. So, like I serve on the board of education for the International Association of Corneotherapy. We have wonderful conferences, when we can, to do a lot of education that is all like complementary to corneotherapy, not necessarily just about corneotherapy, that gives us access to people who know way more than we do, so that we can learn from each other. And there's always, you're always a student and a teacher at the same time. And I just love it. So, the concept of corneotherapy has actually been around since the 1960s. The father of corneotherapy is Professor Albert Glickman. So, and a wonderful American dermatologist who passed away, I believe in 2011, he passed away. But he might be better known for his discovery of retin A, which, let's face it, we all love our vitamin A. So it's smart science. So we're not giving up on obtaining great results for the skin. It doesn't mean that it's fluffy stuff. It is really high-end science, and we get great results and love it.
Love it. Love it. We'll have to include some links below for anybody that's interested in going to these conferences or getting more education about it for sure. So I'll ask you at the end to share some of those links or resources, because I know that we've got a lot of estheticians that love to nerd out on anything skincare and science for sure.
And there's a lot of free training on there as well. Yes, I'm more than happy to share.
So let's transition a little bit and kind of talk about the business side of things, because I know you're a numbers girl like me. And that is, it's one thing to just be a complete, expert on the science and the ingredients and the technology. But if you transition into operating your own business, you have to own that. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. That means I have to understand the profit margins and the numbers and the metrics. It's not just getting to play in the science and the kind of fun part of why we went to school in the first place. So how are you, you were talking about choosing a niche. Like, how do you coach your clients or educate your clients on niching in their business and what to pick and why?
Well, I have to say I'm fortunate that my pathway and my journey to skin kind of it's not what I anticipated to do in my life. I was going to be a superstar and a teacher or a teacher.
A superstar?
I know. Somehow I think I've accomplished my childhood dreams. I'm a Cornea Therapy superstar. I don't know. In my head, at least, I'm a superstar. And I love it when I get to do training and, guest, keynote speeches at conferences and stuff like that. So yes, fulfilled that little spotlight side, which I have to admit I do kind of like. But, what I find is that we overcomplicate things. And I think as an industry, we are the best at confusing ourselves. So I'm like, okay, there's a tremendous amount of pressure in our industry to do all the things and offer every variation of every treatment possible to keep your clients in your column and so forth.
The brand that does everything is the brand that does nothing.
100%. My grandma said to me, you can be the jack of all trades and the master of none. So what do you want to do? So, yes, I think, my bio on my website very blatantly states, and I don't know that I can say this on a podcast, maybe people should go and read it, but it said about my breaking point in my day related to waxing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love myself as smooth as a baby's bottom wax personally, or laser hair removal or whatever that might be. I just don't like being the person doing that service. What inspires me and lights my personal fire is corrective skincare. So when I was stuck in another 12-hour day of waxing, quite advanced waxing services, I had myself a little moment. I might have broken down with a few crocodile tears and decided that's not what I want to do. I come from a medical background. My whole family are in medicine. And so I was like, I'm intrigued by, by the anatomy and the physiology, and thinking, why do we have acne, or how does rosacea come about? Because when we see that it's something that's not going right when it manifests visibly in the skin like that. So my mind has always been wired that way. And so my background in business, which I was studying before I kicked up university, business studies, to go and do aesthetics, kind of
like so many of us have.
Right. But so complementary as well. Look how well it serves me. Education is never wasted, whether it be a minute or a decade, I tell you. So I kind of transitioned that and decided, what the business has taught me is that you need, like systems and procedures, and a good, strong business, even in aesthetics, is identifying what your lead thing is, what the thing that you're great at is, and then designing everything around that as the leading offer that you have. And then you're going to attract the people that kind of are invested in that type of thing. For me, it's corrective skincare. And because that's what I'm passionate about, I never feel like I'm working. So I don't get burnout. Even though I'm not afraid of working many, many hours a week. I literally have to, I'm a bit A-type personality, so I have to consciously stop myself. But I think that is how we get longevity in an industry where burnout is also an issue. And having those results, if you don't have those things in place, I want repeatable, sustainable results for clients. But we need to decide what that is. And I think one of the biggest issues that business owners have is how to transition themselves into niching and saying no to clients, because we're givers by nature. And I call it stepping off the floor.
That's really, isn't that a conversation around boundaries more 100%. Than anything else? And that for me this year has just been such an important topic to talk about as women, right? Whether it's the boundary of letting your clients DM you. Like I say, would you DM the owner of Starbucks and say, can you open on Saturday at 11 because that's just more convenient with my schedule? No, right? We've got to treat our businesses like a business, and everything that, every situation that's coming up, just like you're saying, of okay, we've got a niche down, we've got to do it, all comes back to boundaries. What are you allowing to happen in your life, and how can we have that strength to create the life that we want?
100%. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I have to say, coming from a medical family of medical backgrounds, I think that their training of doctors and, so forth actually is very good, because I do think they get a little bit of that boundary well, and you have to be able to distance yourself when it's, things that is life and death. So when I work with doctors, the biggest thing is that deciding what you're doing on that day. When they're stepping into the spa environment, clients are there to spend their disposable income. It's not a must-do thing that is life-threatening. So I kind of teach them that you got to show up in a slightly different way. In other words, be on time.
Yes.
But if you go to the doctor for a normal medical checkup, if they're running late, you just wait. It's just the way it is.
We used to tell our doctor that his start time was a half an hour earlier than it actually was.
All the time. And like I said, my dad is the worst. We always joke. My grandma always said, you add a 0 at the end of whatever time he says we'll show up, because it's guaranteed we're going to be late. But he's, but I think there's value in that, because I remember if they had things come up, they have to do hospital rounds or whatever, they're phoning the medical office assistant, you need to move my appointments. It's just the way it is. The very strong boundary and prioritizing what they need to do, and the rest of the day just gets moved around if necessary. So I think that's like a really great point. We have to train our clients how we like them to show up for us, just like we have a system in place and how we show up for our clients. So it's a two-way stream. This is like what I say to people when I'm working with your skin. This is a two-way stream. It's not just a one-way communication. If I don't know, I can't help. So I expect them to let me know if there's any issues. And in return, I expect them to do their part at home, and I expect them to show up in a certain way, the same way I do.
And are you communicating all of that in the initial consult?
Oh, 100%. I'm all about the initial consult. In fact, if you want me to look at your skin, it starts with an extremely in-depth consult. And this is what my zone of genius, let's call it that, is I start all clients on an in-depth advanced skin analysis, and I lay out everything that is related to the client, and we discuss as a spa. Let's use that as an example. We're going to talk about what the outcomes are, what the underlying causes are for the client's conditions. If I spot hair on your face or your toes or your legs or anything like that, we're going to discuss all that. And out of that one powerful consultation, I've got the medical background. I've established what contraindications there are to whatever treatments the business offers. I've laid out an annual plan. I might not have booked it, but I kind of alluded to the client. This is not a one show up for one magical treatment and it's done. Skin doesn't work like that, sadly. So I already am explaining that this is a journey and telling them how frequently I expect them to come in. And I will talk about their injectable treatments, their facial treatments, their corrective treatments, whether that be laser or collagen induction therapy. I lay it all out so they know what the expectation is. And as a person in more of a consultative role now, I lay out work for the entire clinic. The doctor has booked the injectables, the laser tech has got the laser booked, and the estheticians has got the facials mapped out.
We
and
see
home
this.
care.
We see this a lot in medical spas. You know, they'll have a patient care coordinator or someone who's their sole job is doing consultations, the education, booking out the treatment plan. We don't see it as much in day spas or skin clinics. But what I've noticed, and you tell me what you have seen as well, but I feel like there is much more, like, especially in the past 5 years, there's a lot of what I'm calling a skin clinic where maybe they're using physician dispensed skincare. They're not doing all the lasers, but they're still doing more corrective treatments. They might be doing microneedling or collagen induction therapy. They might be doing more advanced peels or things like that. And clinics like that, where their focus is not just, hey, I want to get a wax, or I want to just have a nice relaxing facial, where they're really trying to solve a problem. I think they would benefit tremendously from doing the consultation, making that a required first part, and then creating the entire client journey.
Yes.
Right? Because, you know, you're talking about corneotherapy. There's a lot of people that are, that's their focus and they're not a medical spa. But if you're talking about how are we going to prep the skin? How are we going to rebuild it? How are we going to, it's like, just because something's been done a certain way doesn't mean that you can't change it, where like, it may not be customary to do a consult in a day spa, but for you, you're the owner of your business. You get to do it however you want. And you get to make that your competitive advantage in how you're educating your clients and the results that you're going to get them, most importantly.
100%. So let me share some numbers with you, because we love numbers. I like myself a good spreadsheet. I work with dermatologists who have full-fledged medi spas, to cosmetic physicians who have, let's call them skin clinics, like a step down from the full-fledged spa. And I work with solo estheticians who have beautiful, even at-home spas, very professionally set up. I work across the spectrum. So when my clients decide to become skin focused and they start to talk all about skin and like but inclusive.
Tell me what that means more. What does skin focused mean to you?
So skin focused means that they move into the field of corrective skincare. And these are businesses who kind of let go of what I refer to as grooming services. So they don't want to do waxing and brows and lashes and things like that. They just let go of that in their business model. And they become truly focused on skin health and skin enhancement.
Okay.
So now that can change a little bit, whether they're medically affiliated or not. So some of these include laser technology. Some of these include injectables. And if there's a doctor affiliation in Canada, you have to have a doctor affiliation, except for Ontario. As a registered nurse, you can do the injectables independently, but only in Ontario as a nurse. So generally speaking, it has to be doctor affiliated. But in Canada, estheticians can do, and I work with a lot of people in the States as well. And like some states, can, as an licensed esthetician, you can do dermal needling, and in other states and provinces.
It's different in every, there's states that you can do injectables as an esthetician. It's the scope of practice
that's a bit crazy to me, but yeah. Different conversation.
It's a whole, personal views aside, it is in certain states you are allowed as an esthetician. And so that's part of scope of practice.
Exactly. So you need to know what your scope of practice is. So in Canada, luckily all across Canada, we can do collagen induction therapy. So a lot of my clients use collagen induction therapy, microcurrent, LED, and laser technology, IPL, things like that. So, where was I going with that? Oh, so numbers. So I can tell you that my top clinic in Canada is a solo esthetician who does more revenue a year than one of my dermatology clinics, who kind of nips behind her in numbers all the time, who has a full-fledged team behind them. So that blows my mind. And when I work with clients and implementing this consultation process as the pivotal point of their business, as a starting point for their client journeys, we take numbers before they work with me, like what their averages are, and then 6 months later. The difference in growth is on average 30%.
Wonderful.
And one of the things we also focus on is, it's literally mind-blowing, is also saying, like, don't get stuck on, we all want a full appointment book because we pay for the facility that we're in and so forth, but don't expect the appointment book to be the majority of your income. I want my clients to empower their clients, in other words, the end user, to really do the right things at home on a daily basis. So when COVID hit and they can't come in, that their skin is going to be okay. And then 70% of the end result is what the client does at home on a daily basis. They also get way better results in the treatments we offer if they support it at home with the right stuff. So I want that income from services to be about 30%, and I want 70% to come from retail.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me more about that, because I have a completely different mindset and I love learning more about this. Because tell me about the profit margin. Because are you increasing the profit margin, or like the marking it more than 100%, or how are you doing it?
So typical 100% in Canada, same as you guys, it's usually, like 100% markup on average. But just think this through for a second. If your appointment book is full anyway, or full is a bit unrealistic. Let's say 85, 90% full. 100% is a bit unrealistic to think that every minute of every day is forever going to be fully booked. That's, we all would like that, but you need time to work on the business as well. So imagine your appointment book is full.
Okay.
But it's 30% of your revenue.
So you just have to have a lot of people repurchasing. And I imagine, but what does that do to your margin if so are you doing online sales? Are you shipping? Like, how are you moving that much product?
I move my clients from being in an active treatment program to a maintenance regime. I want them in a maintenance regime. To me, that means I'm like getting results in their skin. So now they're coming from like every week for 6 weeks to coming every 4 to 6 weeks to maximum 12 weeks. Danger zone if they don't come within that 12-week zone, because they're about to trade you in for the spa next door. They got to be back in within that time frame. I do skin checks. So I start with this very elaborate advanced skin analysis, and we discuss everything. The medication, I call it the confessional. You're coming and confessing all your sins. I want to know all the things, how many sunburns you've had in your lifetime, genetic history, everything. We lay out the plan, and in that plan, we have touch points where I want them to come in, and I go extra. I document it with analytical photos and skin measurements of the skin as well. Okay. Yeah. So we do all that, but I want them every 3, maximum 6 months. We get them back in to do a pulse check to see how the skin is going and make sure they're on track, that we're doing what they want, what they need to do. But I'd rather, if they have to choose where to spend their money, I'm going to want them to do the right things at home on a daily basis, like brushing your teeth and flossing, so that your dental checkup is awesome. If we don't brush and floss on a daily basis, the dental check is not as awesome when you do get there. So I'd rather that than have them coming for treatments and then have them in regular treatments. So in the ideal world, they're going to be there every 4 to 6 weeks for their treatments, whatever, depending on where they are in their journey. That is like a great rhythm for me, because I'm topping up their creams, because I know how long it takes for them to work through a cleanser. So I also have in my routine every day, you bet every client coming in that day, my team knows what that client needs based on previous sales. We look at what the clients have purchased in the past before they come in on the day. We have an allocated 30 minutes prep. Yes, you got to know.
Super important. I think we're aligned with so many things. What I'm trying to understand is the profit margin of the overall business. Where's the cash coming from to support that level of inventory? Are you tying up all your cash in that? And could you actually be paying yourself more if you were profiting from services? That's where I
call it a throttle. It's not a switch, it's a throttle. You don't just go, okay, this is what we're doing. So you're kind of generally switching over to carrying that inventory. And I'm a big advocate for, you kind of want to dig into your numbers, and it's a bit of a more elaborate process than explaining it in 5 seconds. But you kind of need to know what that minimum stock level is that you need to keep on the shelf. Of course, most suppliers are going to have like a level of like, okay, if you order at over a certain amount, that they're going to offer you free shipping. So I kind of say, you kind of want to utilize these things. These are your little opportunities to increase your profit margin. And I say, like, have a schedule for your orders, because I feel like if we just, now I'm out of this and let's quickly generate an order around that, that's when we spend unnecessary money. When we get into a rhythm, which is why I'm such a fan of getting my clients into a routine as well. Right. Then it becomes repeatable. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like a big order at the beginning of the month with a top-up order in the middle of the month. But agreed, you want to keep the stock on shelf as low as possible, so that you don't have capital just sitting there waiting to be purchased. And also, I work with a customizable approach to skin. So what I really like is that my clients, I always have like a little backup trick. Do you want me to share it?
Yeah.
Okay. A cream-based mask, like a cream-based vitamin mask. I always have my clients have something like that that's quite generic, that if they run out of a moisturizer, it's always there as a backup. They use it once a week for their weekly regime. But if I need a day or two to get something into the clinic because they ran out or I'm out, it's not the end of the world to sustain skin health for another day or two. So I always teach my clients to have the bottom of the jar has arrived and I didn't realize. So I always teach them to have like that little backup thing. And that helps me also not falling in the trap to order 1 or 2 things because I've run out of it. That gives me breathing room for a day or two to fully prepare and maximize on the offers that my suppliers have as well.
Interesting. I love it. I love it. I would be curious to play around with the numbers more,
Yes.
because I think there's got to be a tipping point when you get into a certain level of spa. If you're doing, if you're a 7 or multi 7 figure spa, doing 70% on retail is quite an operation of.
Yes. But the other reason why I love that, as I have to say, because that's how we break through the income ceiling imposed by the physical hours that we have available to us. We can't exceed that except for strong retail. So, it's not everybody's cup of tea, agreed. So, but for me, that has made a difference. So COVID was really great with that, because my clients who kind of have that ratio, they lost 30% of business, not 70% like the average, because we did a big survey. The average was 70%. So that was kind of really great.
I think it's really interesting. I think it's really interesting. And there are certain product lines. Like I know a lot of the people, spot owners that are like big DMK accounts, they will, have 100% retail to service percentage, or different, Face Reality is another brand that has a really high retail to service percentage. The accounts that carry that, because you are required to use these products to get the results, so definitely can be scalable. And I'm all for retail, right? Like I love making the recommendation, making the entire thing. I just want to understand how this can be, like you were saying, repeatable and scalable to have because at the end of the day, my thing is, how are you going to build a business around the life that you want? Right. And that's different for every single person. So how much one person, maybe like you were saying, I love to work, I want to be here. You've got to I've got that type A personality. We've got a lot of those out there. And then there may be someone else who's like, hey, I'm a mom. I really just want to chill. I want to work 3 days a week and do this. Great. Right. It's like build that business around what makes the most sense for you. And you do that by understanding, what do you like? What has the highest profit margin? And what do your clients want from you? Right? Like mixing those 3 things together.
100%. And it's interesting. My average client works 3.5 to 4 days a week. Actually, so really important. I like working, but I don't like working full throttle all the time. But for me, I'd rather work 5 days a week and take 2-week blocks here and there. So even that is different for everybody. When I am showing up at work, my personality just goes. And then I have many clients who are like slower pace. They just kind of like to space out their appointments a little bit more. For them, this change of having to do more cleaning in between services has been godsend. So they love that. And that's exactly it, understanding, how you operate and owning that. And that's the benefit of being an entrepreneur. That's the payback you get non-monetarily for taking the risk that you do, because that's it. And some people have a higher risk threshold than others. So you also got to identify it as like what you're comfortable in your risk threshold, right? But I think that you can totally like own what it is that you stand for. I do think we deserve to be well paid. I really am saddened with this underpaid issue that we have in our industry. You deserve to be well paid. So
it's all around a boundary that we're creating for ourselves. Because as entrepreneurs, there's so many, like, we actually talk about that a lot in our community, is as women in general, we're underpaid, still in 2022. I think it's like we're making as women 26 cents on the dollar, but we have to stand up and say, hey, I get to pay myself first. I'm going to pay myself before I bring on this huge team. I'm going to pay myself before I do that, because otherwise you build resentment. And what is the point of working yourself like a bone, or working yourself to the bone, and then, taking all this risk and not actually getting the reward. So I think it's super, super important, just in general, as any woman in a business.
100%. So agree with that. And you get to be paid for your knowledge. You invested in your education. So yes, if you're coming to me for analysis, you're going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. I've spent years collecting the knowledge that I have at a very high price, galloping around the globe to attend all sorts of things to learn what I know. And I'm packaging it in a way for my client that's easy to understand if I'm talking end consumer. So yes, that comes at a charge.
I love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything else you want to share with our community? I'm going to ask you to leave your links and share all that in a second, but anything else, just kind of education wise or points that we didn't touch on?
No, I think you're going to be fine if you niche. Success doesn't mean that you have to offer everything to every client. It's also okay not to be everybody's cup of tea. So that's okay. You don't have to please everybody. So decide what it is that you're good at and what you want to pursue and what your business model is going to be, and own it. Just go for it. You're going to attract your client. I see it time and time again. And that's the beauty. Who you attract is not exactly who I'm going to attract. There might be overlap, but we attract different people with different personalities. Yes. Charge what you're worth. Don't be afraid to charge. And also, if you don't value your own worth, how can you expect your clients to? So do that internal talk a little bit. Boost yourself up in the mirror before you show up to work. 100%. Selling is in service. It's not sleazy, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like that is how my clients get sustainable results, by using the right things at home on a daily basis. And yes, I would like you to buy it from me. Thank you very much. 2 of those, if you will. And enjoy it. I think we're so harsh. You can have a little bit of fun. And, it's like, I hope that everybody enjoys showing up to work. How privileged is what we do. People share more with us than most other jobs out there. I love what I do, and it's sacred to me. When my clients allow me to touch them, it's a very sacred, privileged thing to me. And I love it. I love it. And I hope everybody here does. And that's okay. We can all have different approaches to skin. You don't have to be the same. We can
all be wildly successful.
And work together. Yes. I promise you, there is a ray of sunshine for you out there. Somebody else's success does not mean it's your cloud. So embrace and stand on each other's shoulders. Don't break each other down. We can all do really well. And why don't we want to see everybody succeed? The world is a much nicer place if we all do well.
Okay. Love that. Couldn't agree more. Share your links, share the where can people go to find you and follow you? And also where can they go to learn more about the conferences and all of that education that you were talking about?
Sure. So I am on reneserbon.com. That's René with 1 E. When you come from South Africa, you kind of don't know how to spell René, the French name. So just reneserbon.com. I'm the same on Instagram. Love for you guys to follow me there. That's kind of what I'm focused on at the moment. My little Facebook group where we have a lot of fun is a skincare professional strategy group, if you want to go on there. But all the links are on my website, reneserbon.com. I'm really easy to talk to. So whatever floats your boat, if you want to email or message, whatever, that's all good. I answer when I have it scheduled.
That's your boundary.
Yes, exactly. So don't expect an immediate response. And for Corneotherapy, corneotherapy.org. All the information is on there. And if you forget, just email me. I'll send the link as well. It's a global group, and we are having a virtual conference later this year. But I have to say, you should attend a conference at some point in time, because it's in Germany every 3 years, because that's where the association is based. And then every other 18 months, it's somewhere else in the globe. So we've been to New Zealand, we've been to Taiwan. We were supposed to go to Spain, then COVID broke out. So I'm really hoping that we'll be back in Spain in about 18 months or 2 years from now.
You know what? I think we're going to be there. I think we're going to be there where we can do in person, especially in 18 months.
Oh, I really hope so. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm an in-person person. So watch out. If I spot you, I'm going to hug you.
All right, my dear. Well, thank you so much. This was so helpful. So glad to connect with you and talk with you and be able to share your expertise with our community. Check out her links. We've got them all below this video. If you guys want to learn more, find her, follow her on Instagram. And of course, if you want to continue the conversation with us, head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. We'll keep it going in there and we'll catch you on the next episode.